She gave a stranger her last slice of pizza, unaware he was a lonely millionaire who'd been searching for someone like her. Rain tapped against the cracked pavement like a ticking clock that would not be silenced. The sky above Detroit was a heavy charcoal gray, spilling its grief across the city. Naomi Lopez pulled her hoodie tighter around her face as she stepped out of the convenience store where she worked the closing shift. Her shoes were soaked. Her breath came out in clouds. In one hand, she carried a greasy paper plate with a single, lukewarm slice of pepperoni pizza, the last of her lunch break leftovers. The street was nearly empty, save for the occasional flicker of passing headlights and the distant rumble of a bus disappearing into the dark. But then she saw him, a figure, hunched beneath the flickering light of a street lamp, standing as if he had nowhere to go and nothing left to feel. His coat was torn, soaked through, hanging off his shoulders like it had given up the fight. He was shivering, hard. Naomi hesitated for only a second before calling out, "Hey, you there, standing like a statue. Are you okay?" she shouted, stepping closer, squinting past the rain. The man flinched slightly, but did not move away. His face was gaunt, shadowed under the hood. Raindrops streaked down his cheeks, blending in with what might have been tears. Naomi could see now how thin he was, the lines on his face sharp but tired, his eyes a strange kind of bright, like he had seen too much and said too little. She held out the plate. "Look, I don't have much, but this is warm. Take it." The man shook his head slowly. "I do not need it. Keep it for yourself." "Do not be proud," she snapped, her tone more maternal than she intended. "Eat it. I am not walking away while someone stands in the rain, starving." His eyes flickered to hers. There was something startling in them, not desperation, but depth, like he had forgotten what kindness looked like and could not quite believe it had returned. He took the plate slowly, almost reluctantly, his fingers trembling as they touched hers for just a moment. "Thank you," he said, barely audible above the rain. "You are welcome," Naomi said, smiled, brushing a wet strand of hair from her cheek. "There is a heater still running inside. Come in and warm up. You'll freeze out here." He glanced toward the store, then back at her. "No, thank you. I should not stay." She tilted her head, studying him. "You sure? I do not care what brought you here, but I am not going to let a stranger die of pneumonia 10 feet from my store." His lips twitched, almost a smile. "I will be fine, but thank you for the pizza and the decency." Naomi gave a half shrug. "It is not decency. It is basic humanity." He bowed his head, then turned, disappearing slowly into the dark, his steps quiet but steady. Naomi stood there for a moment, puzzled. There was something about him she could not shake. He looked like someone who had once been powerful, or proud, or rich, before something had stripped it all away. Not just his clothes, but his trust, his sense of belonging. She walked home to her small, crumbling apartment above the laundromat, her own life no less heavy. Her mother's medical bills were piled high on the kitchen table. She had been working double shifts since the fall, doing whatever she could to keep the electricity on and the debt collectors at bay. There was never enough, but she always had enough to give, even a slice of pizza, even to a stranger. Nathan Reed stood in the shadow of a closed bookstore across the street, watching her disappear into the night. The taste of the pizza lingered, not just on his tongue, but in his memory. It had been years since someone had offered him anything without wanting something in return. He leaned against the brick wall, eyes closing briefly. She was different. She had not asked his name, or what he was doing there. She had not looked at him like a problem to be solved or avoided. She had not tried to impress or pity or pretend. She had just given. A small gesture, a cheap slice, a warmth that felt real. Nathan Reed, once the face of one of America's most successful fashion empires, now invisible by choice, murmured into the empty air, "She's different." and for the first time in months, the cold did not feel quite so unbearable. 3 days later the rain had lifted, but the chill had not. Detroit's streets glistened with patches of thawed frost, and the wind swept through like a whispered warning of winter's stubborn return. Naomi was halfway through restocking the gum display behind the counter when the bell above the convenience store door gave its usual tired jingle. She glanced up, expecting another regular in search of cigarettes or scratch-offs. Instead, it was him. He looked different, cleaner. His coat was new, or at least newer, a dark navy wool that hugged his shoulders in a way no thrift store garment ever could. His shoes were polished. His hair, no longer stringy and damp, had a tidy wave to it. Still, it was the same face. Same eyes, same quiet intensity. Naomi blinked. "You again." Nathan smiled, just a hint of it. "I owe you a proper thank you," she raised an eyebrow. "Most people just say thanks and move on. You came back in a whole different tax bracket," he chuckled, glancing down at his coat. "I clean up okay?" Naomi leaned her elbows on the counter. "So, you're not homeless?" "No," he said simply. There was no explanation, no apology, just a calm honesty in his tone that made her more curious than cautious. She tilted her head. "So, what were you doing out in the rain, starving and soaked, dressed like a ghost?" Nathan's eyes held hers for a long moment before he answered. "Hiding. I needed to disappear for a while." Naomi studied him. He did not fidget, he did not overshare, but there was weight behind his words, a heaviness she recognized, the kind that sat behind people's eyes when they carried too much for too long. "You found a strange place to disappear," she said. "I found a stranger who reminded me what real kindness feels like." She blinked at that. He glanced around the shop, at the humming refrigerators and the racks of snacks. "Do you mind if I ask you something?" "That depends," she said, arms crossing. "You planning to psychoanalyze me or just make conversation?" "Neither," he said. "I just want to know what makes someone like you give their last slice of food to a stranger." Naomi exhaled, her shoulders softening. "Because I've been that stranger." Nathan nodded slowly. "And yet you still give." She shrugged. "It's just pizza." "No," he said gently. "It was more than that." Their conversation stretched. He asked questions, not in that polite, distant way people often did, but like he genuinely wanted to know about her job, her mother's health, the long hours, the bills. The fact that Naomi had given up on college after one semester to work full-time. He listened with a focus that felt rare, disarming. And yet, something gnawed at the edge of Naomi's thoughts. When he reached into his coat pocket to pay for a bottle of water, his sleeve lifted just enough to reveal the unmistakable glint of something expensive. A watch. Not just any watch. Naomi's ex-boss had one, always flashing it around like it was a trophy. She'd seen enough ads in glossy magazines to recognize the brand. The kind of watch that cost more than 6 months' rent. She said nothing, just rang him up and handed over his change like nothing had happened. But her mind was racing. That night, after her shift ended, Naomi walked to the diner across the street for coffee and a plate of fries she could not really afford. One of the regulars, an older woman named Marla who worked part-time at a boutique down the block, sat beside her at the counter. "Hey, you work at that corner store, right?" Marla said, stirring sugar into her tea. "Yeah." "You ever hear about that fashion guy? Nathan something, used to be on all the headlines, then disappeared." Naomi's fingers tightened around her coffee mug. "What kind of fashion guy?" "Big deal designer, menswear mostly, classy stuff. Rumor is he had a breakdown or something, walked away from it all, been off the radar ever since." Naomi tried to sound casual. "Nathan Reed?" Marla snapped her fingers. "That's him, handsome guy, quiet eyes. Always looked like he was keeping a secret." Naomi stared out the window. So he really was someone. Not just someone big, someone rich. Someone who had no reason to stand under a street lamp eating cold pizza, unless he was running from something even colder. Marla kept talking, but Naomi stopped hearing her. Her mind circled back to that night in the rain. The way he had looked at her, the way he had refused the food at first, the way he had thanked her like it meant more than she could understand. And now, the watch, the coat, the questions, the rumors. She wrapped her fingers around her coffee cup again and whispered to herself, barely audible over the clink of dishes behind the counter. What is he hiding? The invitation came wrapped in hesitation. Nathan had lingered by the counter one slow afternoon, tapping his fingers nervously against a pack of gum. Naomi was restocking shelves, pretending not to notice his fidgeting, until he cleared his throat. I was wondering, he began, if you'd let me take you to dinner. Naomi arched an eyebrow. Like an actual restaurant dinner? Nothing fancy, he said quickly, just food, conversation, to say thank you. She hesitated. She did not date customers. She did not have time for socializing. But there was something about the way he asked, earnest, unsure, like a man unaccustomed to needing anything, that made her pause. Fine, she said after a long breath, but I picked the place. They met at Tony's Diner, an old cozy joint with red vinyl booths, laminated menus, and a jukebox that only worked when it felt like it. Naomi liked it because the food was cheap, and the waitress never judged how long you stayed with just a cup of coffee. They ordered grilled cheese and tomato soup, and Nathan surprised her by knowing exactly how to make a paper straw wrapper snake by blowing air into it. She laughed more than she meant to. He relaxed more than he expected. Over greasy fries and refilled mugs, their conversation slipped past the usual small talk. Naomi told him about her mom, how she had fought through chemo twice, how the debt crushed them more than the diagnosis ever had, about the job she used to love at the art gallery before practicality killed the dream. I used to think I'd have a studio, she said, staring into her soup. Now I just hope I can keep the lights on. Nathan listened quietly, nodding. His eyes were heavy with thought. When she asked about him, he hesitated, then set down his fork. I used to work in fashion, he said carefully. Naomi blinked. Like sales? No, creative direction, brand building. I owned a company, she tilted her head. Owned? He exhaled slowly. I built it, from nothing, and it became something big. Too big, maybe. Naomi leaned back. So you were successful? I was rich, he corrected. That's not always the same thing. He looked at her then, more vulnerable than before. I got lost in it, the money, the image, the noise, and one day I woke up and realized no one around me knew who I really was or cared. They just liked what I could give them. She was quiet. I walked away, he said, left it all, not because I hated it, but because I hated who I had to be to keep it. Naomi frowned slightly. And now? He met her gaze. Now, I'm trying to figure out what matters, who I am without all of it, whether someone can see that version of me and not just the bank account. Then, too softly to be dramatic, I am a millionaire, Naomi. But I am more than that. Or, I hope I am. The words sat between them, echoing louder than anything else had all night. Naomi blinked, once, then again, and suddenly the warmth of the booth, the comfort of the food, all turned cold. You're a millionaire? She said flatly. Yes. And you've been pretending to be broke? No, I was never pretending. I just didn't tell you. You let me think you were struggling. You let me feel sorry for you. No, he said quickly. You never pitied me. That's what made me want to come back. Naomi's jaw tightened. I gave you food. I invited you to warm up. I didn't do that for your gratitude or your money. I know. Then why tell me this now? What, were you waiting for the right moment to impress me? No, he said, leaning forward. I told you because I trust you, because I want to be honest with you. She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping back. Heads turned. She did not care. You think you're being honest now? After you let me believe you were someone else? Naomi, no. You don't get to do this. You don't get to choose when to be real. She grabbed her coat and stormed out. The next day, Nathan came to the convenience store. He stood outside, hands buried deep in his coat pockets, face pale but determined. When Naomi stepped out on her break, he met her with a quiet urgency. "I am sorry," he said. "I never wanted to deceive you." "You did. I wanted you to know me without the title, without the headlines. I didn't plan any of this. I just didn't want to scare you off." Naomi folded her arms. "You lied by omission." "I know," he said, voice tight. "But everything else I said, everything I felt, was real. I was just afraid that if I told you too soon, I'd lose the only real connection I've made in years." She stared at him, torn. The pain in his eyes was real, so was the mess. So was her confusion. After a long silence, she exhaled. "Fine. One more conversation. One. No more secrets." He nodded. "No more." Naomi turned back toward the door but paused. Inside, her heart was a kaleidoscope of questions and one stubborn whisper. What if he's telling the truth? They did not call it dating, not exactly. But Naomi and Nathan began to see each other more and more. It started with small things. Coffee after her shift, shared lunch on a park bench, a walk through the historic district where cobblestones told stories older than either of them. There were no grand gestures, no champagne dinners, just sidewalks and street food, laughter over napkins, quiet glances that lasted a second too long. Nathan never tried to impress her anymore. He showed up in simple clothes, asked more than he answered, and seemed content just to be near her. And Naomi, despite her guard, found herself looking forward to those moments in ways she was not ready to admit. One Saturday afternoon, they walked through an open-air market nestled between two brick buildings. Naomi stopped in front of a booth selling handmade bags, stitched from old denim and fabric scraps. She touched one with a floral strap, running her fingers across the seams. "I used to make things like this, before life got complicated." Nathan watched her. "Do you still sketch?" She shook her head. "Not in a long time. Feels like a different life. You should." Naomi turned to him. "What for?" "For yourself," he said. "For the girl who still dreams, even if she does not say it out loud." She laughed, shaking her head. "You make it sound so easy." "It is not," he said, "but it is worth it." Later that week, he brought her a blank sketchbook. No words, just the gift, a quiet gesture. She opened it slowly, thumbed through the untouched pages, then looked at him with a small, unreadable smile. One evening, they wandered farther than usual and ended up in a quiet neighborhood park, nearly empty under the fading orange sky. They sat on a bench beneath an old tree, their shoulders nearly touching. Naomi kicked at the gravel with her shoe. "You ever miss it?" Nathan looked at her. "What?" "The old life, the cameras, the attention." He exhaled slowly. "Sometimes. Not the noise, but the clarity. When you are building something, you know who you are. When you stop, it is easy to get lost." He paused. "I had this collection once, my favorite. It was subtle. Everything I loved, but it bombed. Critics hated it, sales tanked, people called it a vanity project." Naomi glanced at him, surprised. "That was you?" He nodded. "That was me. And after that I stopped designing. I handed the company to someone else, told myself I was done." Naomi was quiet. "I failed," he said simply, "and I let that failure tell me I was not worth trying again." She looked down at her hands, then spoke softly. "I dated a good guy, I thought. Helped me take care of Mom, told me he believed in me. Then one day he said I was too much work, that my life was too heavy." Nathan's jaw clenched slightly. Naomi looked up at the sky. "I think I stopped trusting after that, not just people, myself." For a moment, neither of them said anything. Then Nathan said he was wrong. She turned to him. "You are not too much. You are enough. And you are strong. in all the ways that matter. Naomi felt her throat tighten. The air between them shifted, warmer, softer. She could feel it, the pull, the possibility, a heartbeat that was not just hers, but fear coiled in her chest like a quiet whisper. She was not ready, not for this, not for him. She stood, brushing her hands off on her jeans. "It's late, I should get home." Nathan nodded, rising beside her. He did not press. He did not ask why her voice had changed, or why she suddenly would not meet his eyes. He just walked her to her door, said good night, and left her with the space she clearly needed. That night, Naomi sat on the edge of her bed, the sketchbook in her lap. She traced the first page with her finger but did not open it. Her mind was loud with questions, about dreams, about trust, about Nathan. She looked toward the window, where the city lights flickered, like thoughts she could not name. "Is he really this good?" she whispered to the quiet. "Or am I just dreaming again?" It happened on a Wednesday, quiet, gray, the kind of day that felt like nothing would happen. Naomi had just finished her shift and was headed to meet Nathan at their usual spot by the park when a sleek black car pulled up in front of the store. From it stepped a woman in heels too high for Detroit's cracked sidewalks and a trench coat that probably cost more than Naomi's monthly rent. Her walk was sharp, purposeful. Her eyes scanned the street like she owned every brick. "Naomi Lopez?" the woman asked, stepping closer. Naomi blinked. "Yes?" The woman smiled without warmth. "I am Vanessa Cross. I used to be Nathan's partner, in business, in other ways." Naomi's stomach turned. "Okay." Vanessa's tone sharpened. "Let me make something clear. I know what Nathan is doing here, this little game of disappearing, of pretending to be ordinary. And I know who you are." Naomi crossed her arms. "Really? Then you must also know I am not interested in your drama." Vanessa laughed softly, cruelly. "You think he is in love with you? That this means something? Come on. You are a grocery clerk with a tragic backstory. You are the flavor of the month, darling, that is all." Naomi's face stiffened. "You are wasting your time." "No," Vanessa said, stepping even closer. "I am protecting my investment. The board wants him back. The industry is waiting, and you are a problem. He is not himself when he is with you. He is soft, distracted. Do you really want to be the reason he throws away everything he built?" Naomi said nothing, her hands curled into fists. Vanessa smirked. "Walk away, quietly, or I will remind the world why Nathan Reed vanished in the first place. I have emails, contracts, mistakes he would rather keep buried." Then, almost as an afterthought, she added, "And let's be honest, you are not exactly built for his world, are you? You are barely holding your own life together." Naomi's jaw clenched. She wanted to shout, to fight, but the words stung more because they echoed what she had feared deep down, that she did not belong, that she was never enough. She did not meet Nathan that night. She turned off her phone, went straight home, laid on the bed fully dressed, and stared at the ceiling until the shadows stretched long and she could no longer tell what was worse, losing him or dragging him down with her. Nathan showed up at her door the next morning, his voice ragged with worry. "I went to the park. I waited. What happened?" Naomi looked tired, paler than usual. "Someone came to see me." He stiffened. "Vanessa." She nodded. "She said things, ugly things. About you, about me." Nathan's jaw tightened. "She should not have come near you. She said she'd ruin you if you didn't walk away. I do not care what she threatens," he snapped. "I left that world, and I will not let her drag me, or you, back into it." Naomi shook her head. "She called me poor, said I was a distraction, said I would ruin your reputation." "Stop," he said. "None of that is true." She looked up at him, eyes wet but defiant. "But she is not wrong, is she? I am not part of your world." Nathan stepped forward, took her hand. "Then maybe the problem is my world, not you." Later that day, he made the call. One call, to one very powerful person who owed him a favor. By nightfall, Vanessa's threat had disappeared, quietly, permanently. The emails, Gone. The leverage dissolved. She would not speak again, not without consequences of her own, but none of it erased the look on Naomi's face. They sat in the park again that evening. The bench felt colder than usual, more distant. Naomi spoke first. "You fought for me. I would do it again." She looked down at her hands. "But what if next time you can't?" Nathan was silent. Then Naomi turned to him, voice trembling. "I don't want to be the reason you lose what's left of the life you built. I care about you too much for that." He reached for her, gently. "I'm not afraid of losing anything, Naomi. I'm afraid of losing you." But she pulled her hand away. "I'm not trying to push you away," she whispered, "but I don't want to pull you down with me." Nathan looked at her, heart heavy. "I can stand the weight, if you let me." Naomi shook her head, standing slowly. "I need time to believe that." Then she walked away, and he let her. Because sometimes love means staying close enough to wait. Snow fell quietly that morning, softening the city of Detroit beneath a blanket of white. The sharpness of buildings, the harsh hum of traffic, all dulled into a gentle hush. Nathan walked beside Naomi through an old neighborhood, where houses leaned like they had stories to tell. She had finally agreed to see him again, but her hands stayed in her coat pockets, her eyes forward. He had waited, and now he had something to say. They stopped by a frozen fountain, icicles clinging to its edges like frozen breath. Naomi leaned against the stone, arms crossed. "I need you to know something," Nathan said. She glanced at him. "I love you." No flourish, no build-up, just the truth. "Nathan, I love how you fight for people, how you gave me your last slice of pizza without knowing who I was, how you make this city feel like somewhere I want to stay." Naomi's jaw tightened. "You don't have to say that." "I want to, because it's real." She shook her head. "You don't get it. This can't. You come from a different world, Nathan." "I'm just surviving. You're not stuck. I work 2 jobs. I live paycheck to paycheck. I haven't had health insurance in years." "I know." "And what happens when your world calls you back? When another Vanessa shows up?" He took a step toward her. She turned away. "I can't go through that again. I can't be left behind." She moved to walk, but her foot slipped on the ice. With a cry, she fell hard. "Naomi!" Nathan rushed to her side, kneeling in the snow. "It's just a sprain," she muttered, wincing. "Let me help." She resisted, then let him lift her, carrying her as if it were nothing. At her apartment, he wrapped her ankle, made her tea, sat beside her in silence. "Why do you care this much?" she asked. "Because you were the first to see me, not for money, not for status. Just me." He looked at his hands, then back at her. "I came here to escape noise, fame, lies, but what I found was trust in you." A tear slid down her cheek. "I'm not perfect," he said, "but you make me feel like maybe I could be more than my past." Naomi began to cry, soft, broken sobs that had nothing to do with pain in her ankle. Nathan reached for her hand. She let him hold it. For a moment. "I want this," she whispered, "but I'm scared. If I lose it, I'm not going anywhere." She pulled her hand away, curling into herself. "I wish I could believe that." Nathan stayed beside her, silent. Because love, sometimes, is not about pushing through doors. Sometimes it's waiting, just on the other side. The news spread faster than Naomi could catch her breath. It started as whispers, innocent curiosity wrapped in thinly veiled judgment. "That's her, right? The convenience store girl? Dating Nathan Reed? Please, she must be a professional gold digger." By the end of the week, the whispers turned to laughter, and the laughter turned to stares. At work, her co-workers dropped comments with fake smile precision. "Nice boots, Naomi. Did your millionaire boyfriend buy them? You've got that dating-up glow, girl. What's your secret? Be poor and get lucky?" Naomi tried to laugh it off. tried to bury the sting under professionalism and silence. But it burned. Every word, every glance. She could feel it curling into her like smoke in her lungs. Across the city, Nathan faced his own audience. "Well," a friend of his from New York had said at a networking dinner, swirling a glass of wine, "we all go through our rebellion phases. Just don't get too attached to your working-class muse." Another joked, "It's cute, like your very own Hallmark holiday special." Nathan pushed back from the table. "She's not a phase," he said, his voice dangerously calm. "She's the best thing that's ever happened to me." The laughter faltered, but the judgment lingered, heavy as ever. Naomi called Nathan one night, voice shaking. "I think I need to leave just for a while, until things die down." He was quiet. "You're not the problem, Naomi. They are. I can't live like this, being stared at, whispered about. I can't walk through my neighborhood without feeling like a joke." "Then let's leave together. Anywhere. Say the word." She shook her head, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I don't want you to sacrifice your life for me. I'm not sacrificing anything. I'm choosing you." But she could not hear it, not fully, not over the noise in her own head. The doubt, the shame, the belief that maybe love like theirs was not built to survive the real world. Then came the interview. Nathan was scheduled for a short segment on a local Detroit morning show to talk about a youth arts program he had quietly funded. It was meant to be a quick, feel-good spotlight. He sat in the studio chair under bright lights, dressed in a simple navy sweater, jeans, no stylist, no hand. The host smiled, polite but prodding. "We've all heard the rumors, Nathan. You've been seen around town with someone very unexpected." Nathan did not flinch. "I have," he said. "Her name is Naomi Lopez." The host leaned in. "And who is she to you?" Nathan smiled, slow and sure. "She's the woman I love." There was a pause. The studio, the city, the morning itself seemed to hold still. "I met her on a cold night," he continued, "when I was at one of my lowest points. She gave me the last slice of her lunch, not because she knew who I was, but because she's the kind of person who gives even when she has nothing." He looked straight into the camera. "She didn't fall for my name. She didn't want my money. She saw me when I was invisible to everyone else. And no amount of gossip or mockery can change what she means to me." The clip aired live. Within hours it was everywhere, shared, reposted, quoted. "I love her for her kindness." The words became a headline. Public opinion turned like a tide. Messages poured into the station. Comments flooded in. "We need more men who speak like this. Naomi sounds like a woman with a heart of gold. Finally, a love story that feels real." Naomi saw the video alone, curled on her couch, a blanket wrapped around her like armor. She watched him say her name, watched his eyes when he spoke about her like she was sacred. She wept, not from pain, but from something even harder to hold. Hope. The next day, snow fell again. Light this time, like confetti from the sky. Naomi walked to the bookstore where she knew Nathan would be. He always went there when he needed quiet. She stepped inside, her heart beating fast, and found him near the poetry section, holding a copy of Neruda with fingers that shook just a little. He turned when he saw her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Naomi crossed the room, stopped inches from him, and whispered, "Why would you do that?" "Because I love you," he said. "You risked everything." "No." I finally said what mattered. She looked up at him, eyes shining. "I'm scared." "I know. I still don't know if I belong in your world. Then we'll make our own." Naomi reached for his hand, held it, did not let go. And for the first time in a long time, the world felt quiet, not because it had stopped talking, but because, in this moment, they no longer needed to listen. 1 year later, the world had not quieted, but Naomi had. Not silenced, just settled. Like snow falling on a city that had finally stopped rushing. They were married on a crisp November afternoon in a small brick building between a cafe and a bookstore. No press, no spotlight, just soft lights, a few close friends, and vows whispered more like promises than performance. Naomi wore a dress she'd designed herself, simple, full of meaning. Nathan wore a suit he refused to replace, the same one from the night he first felt at home with her. Detroit watched them kiss under paper lanterns, the neighborhood cheering from across the street. By spring, Naomi was back in school, fashion design, part-time but fully committed. Nathan helped her create a corner studio in their apartment, where thread spools lived beside textbooks, and laughter always found a way in. "You're teaching me," he told her one night, smiling as she explained patterns. "You're reminding me why I dream," she replied. But their love extended beyond themselves. Together they opened the Common Thread Center, a space for kids to learn sewing, sketching, creating from nothing. Naomi taught the skills. Nathan taught the belief. The kids called them Miss N and Mr. N. Parents came too, not to ask but to offer. Snacks, help, stories. The center became a place where effort mattered more than money, a place that stitched lives back together. One night after a long day, Naomi sat by the window, with hot cocoa in hand, the city glowing beyond the glass. Nathan joined her with his own mug. "You're quiet," he said. "I'm thinking," she replied, "about everything I almost missed." He turned to her. "I almost let fear win," she admitted. "But you waited. You believed." Nathan took her hand. "You did the hard part. I just stood still long enough for you to see it." She leaned on his shoulder. Outside, the city began to sleep. Later that week, they walked through the same street where it all began. The pizza shop was still there, the convenience store. The same street light. Snow was falling. They stopped beneath it, just like before. Nathan smiled, amazing how one slice of pizza changed everything. Naomi slipped her arm through his. I think it was the heart holding it. They stood for a long moment, snow catching on their hair and coats. No audience, no noise, just love. "Do you think we'll ever forget what it was like before this?" she asked. Nathan shook his head. "I hope not. Me too," she whispered. Then they walked on, hand in hand, past the places they had been, into the life they were building. Behind them, their footprints faded into the snow. Ahead of them, only hope. And a love, stitched not from perfection, but from choosing each other, again and again, together. Sometimes, love does not arrive with grand gestures or perfect timing. Sometimes it walks in quietly, cold, hungry, and unexpected, and if you are brave enough to share even your last slice of pizza, it might just stay forever. Naomi and Nathan's story is a reminder that no barrier, no wealth, no past, no fear can stand against kindness, trust, and two hearts that choose each other. Every single day. If this story moved you, made you smile, or warmed your heart even for a moment, please subscribe to Soul Stirring Stories. It's where love lives, where hope lingers, and where ordinary lives become extraordinary tales. New emotional stories every week, based on love, healing, and the moments that change everything. Thank you for watching. And remember, sometimes the smallest kindness can lead to the greatest love.